to Study Abroad 101, an Advisement Day event that the Office of International Education Study Abroad team has organized for you. My name is Chella Saya, and I am a Study Abroad advisor here at UW-Stout. It is our hope for you that by the end of this session, you'll have understood the process to research, choose, apply to, and prepare for a study abroad or study away program, that you'll have seen the typical timeline for the process, and you'll have identified key resources to help you in the process. As I look at the quick poll, I'm happy to see 100% of those of you who've responded have been to our website, which is great. We've also had about 60% of you has seen our classroom presentation or our virtual information session on our YouTube channel. And about 40% of you participated in our virtual study abroad fair that we held. If you didn't have a chance, I would encourage you to go to our YouTube channel because we recorded all of the live sessions and they're available there. So there's sessions with almost all of our international partners, also with faculty who are leading programs, and we also have a number of really great student panels. So if you missed the Study Abroad Fair, I hope that you'll check out our YouTube channel. Just search for UW-Stout Study Abroad in YouTube and you should find us. And as far as where and when you are interested in studying abroad, I see all sorts of answers here. So everything from China, Mexico, Scotland, Cuba. So I have a lot of different interests, which is great. Okay, I'm going to change the slide here. So once you've started to hear about the different opportunities to study away, typically our students are wondering, well, I'm interested, but what really happens next? So I'm going to say from the outset that we're going to cover quite a bit of information in this session, and this goes over the process or the different steps that you're going to be taking. But I want you to keep in mind that you definitely don't have to take, and you won't take all of these steps all at once. The process is typically spread out over a year's time. So I'd hope that you don't come away feeling overwhelmed. I hope you come away feeling like you have a great resource, some information, and at least some initial steps that you can take. I have numbered the steps sort of 1, 2, 3, but you definitely don't have to choose to complete them in that exact order. A lot of times you're completing some of them at about the same time. So the purpose of the numbering is just to give you a general idea of the sequence. So one of the best things that you can do really early on in the process is to think about what your priorities would be if you would study away and what parameters you would want to work within. If you do this brainstorming early on, it really helps us help you because we're better able to direct you towards programs that match your priorities and your parameters. Those priorities, they vary a lot student to student. So here are some important things that you could think about. First, consider what are your goals for studying away? Academically, what subject areas are you interested in studying while away? Do you want to focus on classes in your major, in your minor, perhaps gen eds? Do you need to fulfill any academic requirements, for example, an internship while away? Do you want to really stay on track for graduation? Professionally, do you know of any specific experiences that would be useful to your resume? In other words, that would help your employability or promotability that you could gain while you're abroad, or perhaps to get into graduate school. Personally, think about why do you want to study away? Have you always had a bucket list country in mind or a language that you always dreamed about being able to learn really well? Are there historical or current events that may impact your experience? Or perhaps do you want to explore your family history? All of these goals, academic, professional, personal, are all valid and important to consider. Next, it's important to ask what type of program would work best for you and what classes or credits do you want to complete. So I saw that 60% of you have seen our classroom presentation or our virtual information session when we define the different types of programs that are available to you at UW-Stout. But just quickly, these program types include exchange, where you're paying UW-Stout tuition, national student exchange, again, where you're paying Stout tuition but studying within the United States or Canada, direct enroll, provider programs, as well as shorter term options like faculty-led programs, internships, co-ops, field experiences, student teaching, and there's also virtual options as well. So to decide which type of program is right for you, you'd want to think about, sorry, not that one yet. What classes, do you want to take classes with local students or in students that you know here at Stout? Do you want to be in a classroom, or do you want to have more an applied learning experience through an internship, co-op, or student teaching assignment? Are you thinking about maybe just taking 3 credits abroad, for example, over 2 to 3 weeks in a winter term, perhaps taking 6 credits in a summer break? Or perhaps are you looking for more credits and time away? For example, 12 to 18 credits over a semester of 4 to 6 months. Or are you up for taking 24 to 36 credits over an academic year abroad? Related to those questions, what's your ideal time frame? So think about, how long do you really want to be away? Also think about your major and your graduation plans. What is the course sequence for your major? And is there a best time to fit in a study away experience within that course sequence? That often varies by your major. Also, in terms of time frame, what role do personal issues such as family commitments, relationships, jobs, internships play in your timing? Next, and it's a big one for many students, what's your ideal budget? So you can ask, how do you plan to cover the costs associated with study away? Have you submitted a FAFSA for financial aid? If so, what scholarships, loans, and grants could you use for study abroad or study away? Also, what additional scholarships, loans, or grants could you apply for example, from the list of scholarships that we have provided on our website? Can you use the GI Bill, for example? Can you perhaps save some earnings from a job towards a study away program? Do you think your family members or friends might contribute to a crowdfunding campaign? These are all things to think about when it comes to budget. Then you get to location. Is there a country or a region that appeals to you? Would you rather go to a place that's a bit similar to what you're familiar with here in the United States, or someplace that's totally different that will take you really outside your comfort zone? Think about, would you rather be in a really big city or a small city like Menominee, or perhaps a more rural location? Do you want to study in a place where perhaps you can explore your family's heritage? Those all are good questions to ask. Related to location, what about language? Do you want to go somewhere where you speak some of the language already? Do you want to go to an English-speaking country? As an aside, I do want to assure you that the vast majority of our study away programs allow you to take classes in English, even though the people of that country are speaking in another language. So in other words, you're generally not required to know another language to study away. However, if you do have some language ability, think about, do you want the opportunity to take more advanced classes or even take classes that are taught in that other language? After you consider location and language, it also makes sense to consider the actual host institution. So would you like to go to a school that's similar size to Stout, something bigger, something smaller? Think about whether class size matters to you. Is it important to you to attend a university that is recognized for academics in your particular major? Also, how important is it to you that the host university have a lot of extracurricular activities? If you're really into sports, is that important to you? Or do you want them to offer sort of unique extracurriculars while you're there? For example, organized outings to the outback, or downhill skiing in the Alps, or scuba diving. Also, does the host institution offer some sort of on-campus housing? Do they help you arrange off-campus housing? Are you really interested in a homestay? That's all important to consider. As well, are you comfortable making some of these arrangements on your own, or do you really want to find a host university or a host provider that provides a lot of support to you in making those sort of on-the-ground arrangements? Finally, it's important to consider your identity. So think about, what role does your race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion play in your priorities for the location and the program? Do you need to consider the legal or cultural environment towards your identity when choosing a location? Are you a student with disabilities and need to consider what accommodations can be provided? Do you have a mental or physical health issue that you need to ensure can be supported in that particular location? So some of these topics might be very, very important to you, and others might not be so important to you at all, and that's fine. The importance of this list is really just to start thinking through what is really important to you so you can share that with us and with others as you start to do your research. So another step to take early on in the process is to do an initial search of your options at our website. You might even choose to do this first before thinking through those other issues, just so you can get a general idea of your options. Remember, when you go to our website, UW-Stout.studioabroad.com, that you can search by different parameters that are important to you. So program type, time frame, country, by your major. So you can play around with that and see what options come up. Once you start identifying programs that you're interested in, you can confirm whether you meet the eligibility requirements. So each program will list the minimum GPA and any other eligibility requirements specific to the program. A typical minimum GPA is 2.0 for faculty-led programs and 2.5 for other programs. But the minimum can be higher. Sometimes we see 2.75, 3.0. So that being said, make sure you check it out. But if you think that your GPA is a little bit lower than the minimum, don't rule it out. Still reach out to our office, because sometimes the host university or host program will have some flexibility. Sometimes they might ask you to provide an additional recommendation, for example, from a Stout faculty member, indicating whether they feel like you could be successful in that program, or perhaps explaining about some recent improvements that you've been making. Another aspect of eligibility is whether you are in good academic and non-academic standing before participating in the program. So all students undergo a Dean of Students clearance before being accepted, and that clearance is completed during the application process, and it's an automated process. Class standing is also considered. So the earliest that students can study away is the wind term of their first year, but only on a faculty-led program. For semester program, students must have completed at least one academic semester at UW-Stout before participating. The earliest opportunity is the student's second semester, specifically on the Wisconsin and Scotland program. However, that program is currently on hold, so all other semester programs require that you have at least a sophomore standing at the time of participation. So obviously, at the time of application, you could be a freshman. Finally, completion of prerequisites can sometimes come into play for eligibility. Some faculty-led programs are based on courses that require that students have taken one or more courses, and sometimes even that they have achieved a certain grade level. Sometimes the faculty will accept a waiver, so you should contact the faculty leader if you are wondering about the prerequisites. As far as semester programs, once you start looking at classes, make sure you also look at the classes you might want to take if they have prerequisites, and to see whether you will be able to fit in taking those prerequisites before you go, or whether you need to reach out to see whether, again, they might be able to accept a waiver. In this early part of the process, you may also start meeting with some of the people that are important to making your decision and to the application process. So I'm going to go quickly through the role of these different people. So first and foremost, we encourage you and hope that you will meet with us. A study abroad advisor can share the different procedures and deadlines involved, advise you on country and program selections, answer all your questions, provide a pre-departure orientation once you've been accepted, and overall, we support you all the way through the process from pre-decision, application, pre-departure, in country, and when you return. If you're interested in a faculty-led program, it's also important to speak with the faculty leader early on. You can talk about the assignments or projects involved, the benefits of taking that particular course in a different context as opposed to here at Stout. Talk more about the itinerary, and even be put in contact with students who have gone on the program before if it is a repeat program. An academic advisor, program director, or minor advisor provides guidance on courses needed for your major and minor, of course, and any internship or co-op requirements, and how to stay on track for graduation while studying away. So an important topic to discuss is the best time frame for studying away considering your particular program's course sequence and your graduation plans. So you should talk with your advisor or program director about the courses you've taken, those that you need to take, and maybe start to earmark some of the courses that might be good options to take while away. The advisor might also be able to share with you if other students in that major have gone away or gone abroad, where they've gone and what their feedback has been. The transfer coordinator signs off after your program director and minor advisor on the courses that you plan to take while away and exactly how they will transfer back. The coordinator also helps process your transcript when it arrives from your host program. On a side note, I do want to make you aware that grades earned while studying abroad or studying away are not included when calculating your cumulative GPA. But they can affect graduating with honors. So to say that again, only grades earned while at UW-Stout are used to compute grade point average. So the study away grades are calculated a bit differently. If you use financial aid, the financial aid counselor meets with you to discuss the costs involved with your chosen program, processes what's called a financial aid notification form, that is a required part of the application if you're wishing to use financial aid, and ultimately will inform you of the financial aid package that you could potentially receive while away. Finally, it's important around this time to start talking with family members and friends if you want to include them on the research and decision-making process. Finally, if you are interested in talking with Stout students who have gone to your top choice programs in the past, you can also reach out to our office, and usually we can put you in touch with some of those study abroad alumni. So you can ask those questions that really only someone who's been in your shoes can answer. So about this point in the process is where you'd likely narrow down your top choices and start comparing specifics of those programs. So these are some of the things that might be good for you to compare among your top choice programs. So first, look at their academic calendar if you are going for that longer period of time, or even with summer. So does their academic calendar fit with your plan back here? So if, for example, you want to go for one semester and you're thinking to go for fall semester, does their fall semester end in December like ours does? Or does it extend a little bit farther into January, even February, which would not allow you to return to Stout in time to start spring semester? So this is a common issue sometimes with Germany or with Australia. And so students find different solutions. Sometimes they will just choose to study in spring semester because they can avoid the overlap. Other times they might go for the entire academic year, so there's no issue. Or they might combine a semester of study abroad with an internship. Next, you can look at the class offerings. to look specifically, do they offer the subject of classes that you need at that point in your academic path? Did they list the syllabi on the website? If so, that's really helpful in your conversations with your program director or minor advisor. Also, very key question, is the course or the courses that you need offered in the semester that you'll actually be there? So often schools will list their course offerings online by when they're offered. So fall semester classes, spring semester classes from the previous year. So you can look at what is offered when. So for example, if you are interested in studying abroad in spring 2022, you can look at what is offered in spring 2021 to give you a pretty good idea of what will be available and to start to see whether they'll be offering what you need at that point. In general, I would say the more research you can do on classes, the better off you'll be, and the more prepared you'll be to have those conversations with your program director, minor advisor, or the transfer coordinator. Next, it's important to look at what is included in the program fee. So now we're looking at the dollar and cents. So although there are commonalities in what is included in a program fee, certainly the amounts vary, and sometimes what is included can vary as well. So for example, for room and board, is there a homestay option? If you're interested in homestay, is that offered? And if so, does it include meals in that cost? That can be a huge savings. Another issue, do they offer airport pickup? Do they include excursions? Sometimes they'll offer a few planned excursions included in that program fee. Do they offer a flight discount? Do they offer scholarships? Do they offer an internship option if that's something you're interested in? And what about social support? Is there a buddy program or a language partner program? These can be very helpful social supports that can really enrich your experience abroad or away. Well, finally, most important, I think for many students, is to look at the cost estimate, the specific cost estimate for each program. So we're going to just look at an example. Again, if you go to our website and start finding those programs that you're interested in, you'll find a tab that says costs and scholarships, and that's where you'll find the cost estimate. So this is an example. So first, I'd like you to notice that there is a billable section at the top and a non-billable section at the bottom. The billable subtotal is what is charged to your Access Stout account, and it's charged to that account according to the normal tuition and fee payment schedule that you can find online with the Office of Business Services. I'm going to go through each of these line items because students often ask what they are about. Please keep in mind, again, there's some variation program to program, so there'll be similarities, but there might be some differences. And always keep in mind that it is an estimate, so these costs can and do change. So first, there is the OIE service fee, which is a standard fee. It is $400 for all international programs and national student exchange programs. It is $200 for domestic faculty-led programs. Next, there is the program fee. That typically covers the tuition and academic fees specific to the program, as well as includes some of those included services that we just talked about. For example, if the host university provides some excursions in the price, or an in-country orientation, or other features. So that is included in the program fee. Next, the UW-Stout fee you already know and are familiar with. It's calculated based on your enrolled credits. Then there is the UW system insurance, which is required by the University of Wisconsin system. It's international health insurance called CISI. And certainly we've seen this year that it is absolutely critical to have that type of support while you are away, and to have that ability to get the services, health services in particular, that you need. Next, there is the emergency fee. That, again, is something that's required by the UW system, and it is standard across all applicants. So the $30 per student fee maintains an emergency fund so that our office can provide support to students in an emergency situation, like what occurred in 2020 when we had some students abroad in spring 2020 and they had to come home. Next, there is the non-billable section. So this is the section of items that you pay separately, not through your Access Stout account. First, there is the application fee of $190 that is non-refundable, and it's paid via credit card through the link in your application. I will say it is non-refundable. So for example, if you want to apply and then something happens later on, you change your mind, you don't get that $190 back. That being said, if you sign up for a program, for example, in summer 2021 that is canceled due to COVID-19, it would be refundable, or you could also roll it over to a different program or to a postponed program. Next, if you don't have a passport, you'll have to use a check or money order to apply to the U.S. Department of State for a passport. Then, if the country where you're going requires a visa for the amount of time that you'll be there, you may have to pay their consulate by check or credit card or perhaps in cash in country to receive the visa. Next comes housing, and down below books and supplies, which you typically would pay to your host university. Then there are meals and personal expenses, which of course are estimates based on the amount of time that you'll be in the location, the cost of living in the country, and the exchange rate at the time you're there. These vary a lot, student to student. For example, if a student likes to eat out a lot, or if the student really wants to do a lot of traveling while there. So it's an estimate. Finally, there is airfare. So typically, if you're going on a semester program, you'll purchase your airfare on your own via credit card through a regular travel booking site. If you're on a faculty-led program, typically the UW System Travel Agency will purchase all the Stout student tickets and faculty leader tickets as a group. So in that case, it would be included in the program fee that is charged to your Access Stout account. So I covered a lot of information. I'm going to take a quick pause. I'm going to activate a different poll just to give me a chance to have a sip of water and get a little information from you. So if you go to the link there, I'll type it into the chat again as well. Just one question. So it should just take a few seconds. No, just give a few more seconds. All right, I still see the percentages changing. Well, right now, it's a pretty evenly split. Oh, it's still changing. All right, so we are seeing quite a few of you are planning to use some personal savings from a job. About a third of you are hoping to apply for and receive scholarships. Great. Some of you are able to use the GI Bill. That's great as well. And a smaller percentage than I expected. About 15% of you are thinking about using financial aid grants or loans. Actually, we did do a recent poll of our returning study abroad students, and actually the majority of them used federal grants to fund the majority of the costs related with their study away program. I will definitely recommend going to our website and looking at your different options. Keep in mind that if you do use financial aid, generally financial aid can be used for study away programs. Even if you aren't qualifying for study abroad, for financial aid while you're here in Menominee, it's possible that you could qualify while you're studying away because there are different costs involved. So I definitely would recommend that you pursue that option, talking with the financial aid office as well. All right, thanks for participating in that. All right, let's get back to the process. Before I go any further, speaking about money, some of you may be participating in the Passport Study Abroad Micro Scholarship Contest that we're running for Advisement Day. So if you are, the passport stamp for this activity is Japan. I hope you stay on. Don't sign off. Keep on staying on to the session. But if you aren't familiar with this, please go to our Canvas page. At the top of the page, you'll get information about the Passport Study Abroad contest. The 10 students who have the most passport stamps for completing activities like this one will receive a $100 micro scholarship towards studying abroad sometime before they graduate. So it isn't a limited amount of time as far as by next year, it's just before you graduate. All right, let's get back to the process. All right, once you are sure of your program, your budget, you can go ahead and complete your application. You do that at our website, uwstout.studioabroad.com. Sometimes as part of your application, you might be prompted to complete an application for the provider, the host university as well. Typically, though, we will provide a link for you to be able to do that. So let's quickly go over the application requirements. A lot of students ask about that. So first, there is the non-refundable application fee that I mentioned of $190. It is important to pay this fee because when you do pay it, your name is routed to the Dean of Students office to be cleared for academic and non-academic standing after you've paid the fee. Next, you'll have to write a couple paragraphs about why you want to study away and why you think you are a good candidate or good applicant for the study away program. So you should keep that couple paragraphs written in a professional format, kind of like a cover letter. You also will have to provide recommendations, typically 1 or 2, depending on the program type. We do prefer to have recommendations from UW-Stout faculty or other faculty. However, we do accept outside recommenders as well. When you are in the application portal, there will be a place where you can type in the recommender's name and email address, and that portal will automatically send the recommendation request and the form to the person. So make sure before you put that person's email address in that you contact them somehow in person, by office hours, by email, and tell them that you are doing an application for studying away and that you'd like them to be one of your recommenders. So make sure you do reach out beforehand. If you are planning to use financial aid, then you will fill out the financial aid notification form. And you'll have to read some other fine print information about studying away, from enrollment to financing to timelines. And basically, you just need to read it and electronically sign it to indicate that you have understood the information. And don't just rush through that, because we definitely have had students, just sign it in a rush and then really, later on come to regret that they didn't understand some of those details. Then if you are going on a semester program or even some summer programs, you might be completing a proposal for transferred credits. And this is the form that you would complete with your program director or minor advisor and the transfer coordinator, where you identify classes that you'd like to take while away, and you agree on how those courses will exactly transfer back here and count towards your requirements for your Stout graduation. After submitting your application, a lot of students wonder, well, how long do I have to wait? When will you let me know? Typically, we start looking at completed applications a few weeks before the deadline. However, if you have completed your application much sooner, and I know right now because of COVID-19, we have applications open for quite a bit into the future, you can email us and let us know you've completed your application early, and it's possible that we can review your application before we actually get to the application deadline. All right, if you are accepted, you'll receive an automatic message generated by the application portal when our staff changes your status from in progress to accepted. You'll also start receiving automated messages from the portal about other post-acceptance requirements and processes. And one of those requirements, if you're going on a program abroad, is to make sure that you have your passport. Um, if you have one already, great, but if you don't, I encourage you to go to our website. If you hover over Start Here, you can click on Passports, and that's where we have information for you, including a direct hyperlink to the Department of State webpage that outlines the process step by step and provides the form that you have to fill out. That form is called DS-11, the Department of State. And you have to fill out the form, collect the supporting documents that the State Department requires, and bring your check and money order as well as those forms to the Dunn County Clerk of Courts here in Menominee to submit your application. Keep in mind that typically it takes around 10 to 12 weeks for you to get your passport in the mail. However, in 2020, it has been taking quite a bit longer. Sometimes we've seen 4 to 6 months. So we encourage you to apply as soon as you're really sure that you're going to be studying away. You can pay for an expedited processing of your application. There is an extra fee, and that's typically then you receive that passport in 4 to 6 weeks. I think we will start to see quicker processing times, but we still want you to be on the safe side and not be waiting on pins and needles to see if you get your passport. All right. It's also a good time about this point in the process to be researching scholarships and applying for them as soon as you know which program you plan to attend. So like for the passport, you may choose to start your scholarship applications even before you've been accepted to the program, because sometimes those deadlines are quite a bit far out in the future. So now I'm going to just show you where exactly you go and talk you through the information that is available to you. So if you go to our website, you hover over Start Here, you click on Finances, you come to this page. At the top is some general tips. Just below it is information on financial aid, loans, and grants. Just below that, there's a link for information on using the GI Bill. And then there's a very long list of scholarships that we organize by those available through the Stout Foundation, those that are for short-term programs, and those that are for long-term programs. And we organize those by region and by country. And you can also look for scholarships for particular universities or providers as well. At the bottom, we have some crowdfunding sites because we are seeing students use those more. And also there's some other helpful tools that we've collected from other universities and professional organizations that are there. So for example, other scholarship databases that you can mine for good ideas. Okay, so to underline the point, make sure you are starting to do that research pretty, as early in the process as you can. And also be aware of the resources that you have available to you. So you have the Writing Center, you also have me and our other staff in our Office of International Education that can help you revise and refine your scholarship applications. So next up is confirming whether you need any other travel documents. So this is after you've been accepted to a program. So confirming, for example, whether you need a visa. So again, we have that information if you go to our website. If you hover over Start Here and select visas, you should look for the country where you're planning to go. And you want to think about timing with this requirement as well, because sometimes you do have to apply for the visa in person. Chicago is a very common location for consulates of other countries in the Midwestern region. So for some programs, you might have to plan a trip down to Chicago to apply for that visa. Other times, the consulates will allow you to mail in your passport. But again, you need to think about timing. So the time to mail in the passport, the time for them to process the visa, and for the time for them to mail it back to you. Visas are typically only valid for a certain period of time. So that's another reason why timing is important, and for you to understand exactly how visas work in the country you're going. So a typical time frame for students is to be getting their visa about 3 months before their departure date. Sometimes students are doing it a bit closer to the departure date. It varies, but 3 months is a pretty common mark. At the same time, you should be, of course, making sure that you're remaining eligible to go on your program, keeping your GPA above that minimum. and not having any academic or non-academic probations. You'll also have to complete any post-acceptance documents that we ask you to complete or the host university asks you to complete, certainly by the deadlines that they set for you. For the provider or host university, you're probably going to be completing registration for classes, perhaps an application for housing. For us, we'll be enrolling you in that UW system required international health insurance, CISI, and we'll also be conducting a pre-departure orientation. Typically, we're holding that pre-departure orientation in person. If you are going in winter or spring, we usually hold it in November. If you are going in summer or fall, we usually hold that in April. If you go in a faculty-led program, however, then the faculty leader will run their own pre-departure orientation at the time that they choose. Okay, so many students wonder when they should really start the process, and so I wanted to give this information to you in a visual format as well. I hope it's not overwhelming. So first you should find the row for the type of program that you're interested in and its time frame. So for example, many of you might be thinking of fall 2021, so that would be the middle row. The months that are marked in yellow indicate when you would typically be doing your research, starting to really work through your priorities, meeting with us, meeting with your academic advisors, and doing your research, comparing programs. Orange is typically the months that you would be working on your application. Red is when the typical deadline for the program lies, and so you be needing to complete your application. Blue is, if you are accepted, is when you'd be completing your pre-departure activities. And then green is the month that is typically when you would be departing. I've flagged with the letter P the months where you typically would be applying for a passport if you don't already have one, and a V for the months you typically would be applying for a visa if it's necessary for the country that you're going in. So what I hope comes across is that it is quite a long process, and these tasks are going to be spread out. Typically for a semester or academic year program, you have about a year that you're working on, working through the different tasks. Often students who are going for a summer or a winter program have a slightly shortened time frame, perhaps 6 months, but it does vary. We really do encourage students to start thinking about and planning for this as soon as they know they're interested, even as early as your freshman year, so that you can really start earmarking the classes you might want to take while abroad and making plans to make that happen for yourself. So wrapping up now, here's a slide with some helpful resources. Again, I want to emphasize that we are here to help you through this process. First, I'm so glad that 100% of you indicated you've been to our website. You may have just really focused on the program information, but please know that there's other information there. If you have a family member who's kind of concerned, has some questions, we have a section for family members. If they have some questions about health and safety, we also have a section on that. We have identity-related resources. There really is quite a bit there. I also encourage you to reach out to us in this office, call, email, make a virtual appointment with us. We're so happy to talk with you from the very beginning all the way through. And also for the other aspects of your application, you have the financial aid office, the advisement center, the writing center, the transfer coordinator. There's so many people here to help you. Don't worry about copying any of this information down. Of course, you can find it online, and I can also share the slides with you after we're done. So with that, I'm going to just say thank you, and I'm going to leave this last 15 minutes for questions.